Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be giving my review of the Studio Ghibli movie Kiki's Delivery Service as a continuation with our anime month theme that we've been going with the past few weeks. So this was my first time checking out the movie recently, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and review on it. So let's get ready to jump in. Welcome once again. My name is Austin, and on this channel we talk about one of my favorite things in the world, movies, and how I tie together my faith with film and everything that's in between. Now, over the past few years, I've been kind of slowly working my way through many of the Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki anime movies. Many of these movies have become some of my favorites, even just in general, of movies that I absolutely love. Now, Kiki's Delivery Service tells the story of Kiki, a young witch starting her mandatory year of independent life as she moves away from her family to establish herself and her air courier service in a new city to support herself. Now, kicking things off with the performances as I typically do, the only actor that I recognized and knew about is Kirsten Dunst. I've been, familiar with her work for a while, and I wouldn't have picked up on her voice because this was back in the 80s when this movie came out, so she was very young, but I still really appreciated her performance, and for a young age, I thought it was really good. I really empathized well with the character and got invested in her story and her journey as she's coming of age, trying to make something of herself, support herself, all those kinds of things. I really felt invested in that stuff she was going through and dealing with on her journey. Now, the rest of the cast I'm unfamiliar with, so I can't speak too much to it besides the fact of saying that they really helped to contribute to this living, breathing world that really just feels so tangible in its wild, imaginative state. I think that's one of the strongest qualities of a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's movies is just the tangibility and the authenticity of them, despite their outlandish and imaginative nature of their creatures and people that fill them. And this is one of the more grounded movies, as there's not a ton of whimsical and interesting characters that are shown and whatnot, but it's still one that all of the performances throughout, I think, really well contributed to this living, breathing world that we're following Kiki and her journey on. Next, moving on to the filmmaking. I touched on it a little bit of the kind of living, breathing world, but the animation in this movie continues to be thoroughly impressive and definitely in a masterful state. I loved the sceneries, the backgrounds of many of the scenes, whether it's the close-up ones or the ones far above the city when you're flying with Kiki. They feel familiar, but at the same time from another world that Kiki is taking in and getting used to. Some of my favorite sequences were probably the ones where she's just flying and soaring over the city, the countryside, all the different areas. It was so cool to see this really cool bird's eye view perspective of the world below her as she's getting to know it and find her place in it. It was really interesting. Next, moving on to the themes, being a coming-of-age story, they were somewhat familiar, but still nonetheless impactful themes that this movie focuses on, of becoming of age, moving on out to be independent and supporting yourself, making friends and getting help along the way. There's so many interesting people and characters that Kiki meets along her journey as she's finding somewhere to live, making some friends and getting her business off the ground. And then it didn't also shy away from those difficulties of coming of age, of not everything being exactly what you imagined it to be, some of the hardships that come along with it. So for something that really is childlike type story, it definitely does a good job of incorporating those more adult themes of dealing with that coming of age and looking back on it for someone of my age, those same feelings that I experienced in that time period. And then some miscellaneous points that I just wanted to make. I did notice that most of the movie was pretty low stakes, which was always fun for the childhood focused films of Hayao Miyazaki. I'm thinking of like Spirited Away, which I guess has a little bit of higher stakes, but something like My Neighbor Totoro, I guess I would compare a little bit more to, of just this. There's an overarching story, but it's overall pretty low stakes. You're more just following along on these people, their journey, the day-to-day life, that kind of thing. And I really enjoy that type of storytelling, especially in these films. Now, the climactic ending was a little bit of a departure from this low stakes, for the most part, journey that Kiki was going on for much of the film, but despite its difference in tone, I still thought it fit really well, for the most part, into the story of the movie. You need some kind of push to get her to really commit fully to what she's doing, and I thought this was a really good way of doing it. Ghibli movies that primarily revolve around childhood, the imagination, I've talked about this multiple times before, those are some of my favorites within the filmography, and I'm so glad I finally checked out Kiki's Delivery Service because I really, really did enjoy the story, the characters, the world. It's one that you can just pop in and kind of get swept away into the story and the world of, which is very much, if not all of Ghibli movies, but especially these ones, I think, are the ones that I enjoy the most. So it's easily one of my favorite among the Ghibli films because of all those reasons. If I was to give this movie a rating, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I just absolutely loved it. Like I said, aside from some tonal shifts with the kind of more climactic ending that they introduced, it still works, but it was a little bit of a departure from the rest of the movie. Aside from that, it would just be nitpicking a few things here and there, but I loved the movie, thought it was really great. It's up there with Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, and many others of the Ghibli movies as far as that filmography and Hayao Miyazaki's films go. So thank you for checking out my review. Let me know your thoughts on this movie in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one.